Hi, and welcome to the podcast Making Sense, brought to you by Navy Federal Credit Union. I'm your host, Emily Bigham, and each week I'll be taking your questions to the experts to help you make sense of your money, pun intended. Welcome back to Making Sense. Today, we'll be talking about the 5 financial markers to travel smarter and stretch your vacation dollars. And back with us today on the podcast is Thomas Rocca. He is our manager in personal finance management. Welcome back, Thomas. Great to have you.
Hi, Emily. Thanks for letting me be on today.
Yeah. So today we'll be talking about some tips on how to make extra money to help budget for travel plans, also how to stretch your vacation dollars further, and most importantly, plan an affordable trip but without compromising the fun. So Thomas, do you have any vacations planned for this summer?
Yeah, every summer we do like to get up to the beach in Cape Cod or out into the mountains, one of the two. But I'll tell you, when we were looking through this topic, one of the memories that it sparked for me was about a decade ago. I was really desperate to see my best friend who had moved away years ago. And I hadn't seen him in several years at that point, and he was living just outside of Phoenix. So money was a little tighter back then than it is now. And I sat down, pen and paper, internet, booked a trip way out in advance, and I looked for what could I do out there that would be fun and cheap. And I was able to get a great discount on a flight, and I was able to spend a little bit more on a cool rental car. I drove a Camaro through some of those cool deserts, went up to the Grand Canyon, went down to see Tombstone, and just really got some cool experiences and appreciate the things that were already there in the area. I got to stay with my buddy, save money on a hotel, and it just made some core memories for me that I keep with me to this day.
Yeah, I think, hopefully everyone's had some of those experiences, especially with the pandemic recently. I think a lot of people, instead of flying, maybe they rented RVs. I know a lot of friends who rented RVs for their vacations, which sounds really fun. So one of the tips is creating a realistic travel budget. So when we're creating a realistic travel budget, what do we mean by realistic?
We see a lot of things on social media, and we think that for it to be a great vacation, it has to be something that we are going to be able to put up 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, the entire duration that we're out there. And the truth is that while you're going to look back on some of those pictures, what really matters is making memories and doing the things that you want to do and not doing it to impress other people. When we talk to people about making a realistic budget, one of the things that we do is say, sit down, pen and paper, see how much you can afford, and try to build in where are you going to splurge a little bit and where are you going to try and save money. So when you're going on a trip, it might be really important to you to stay in a 5-star hotel, or you might be okay staying in a hostel and you might want to spend money on eating out and hitting the local restaurants. It really matters to, when you're planning, decide where can you save, what can you afford, and then looking for opportunities to see where you're going to put those extra dollars in your budget to.
When you're explaining realistic, it sounds to me sort of like the home buying process, when they're like, what's a realistic price for your home and what do you really care about? Do you care about like location? Do you care about schools? Do you care about the backyard? Do you care about the windows? But I think especially with, social media and seeing what other people are doing, you kind of want to be like spontaneous. It seems like everyone's just being spontaneous and like waking up on a beautiful beach, but that's not realistic, right? So how soon should you be saving for a trip? Like when do you recommend to members who are kind of talking to you about this type of stuff, like how far in advance should you be thinking about what is my budget for travel?
The more time, the more runway that you give yourself, the better off you're going to be. I know you can go on and you can book a cruise now 2 years out. And the further out you book a flight, the further out that you book a cruise, the more time that you have to put things together, then the more money you're going to be able to save. That's just part of the industry. You make a great point talking about how spontaneous everything looks. Spontaneous is often going to be expensive. And I know people that travel that way. They don't make any plans. They want to go where the wind takes them. But I was never one to do it that way, and you really got to do your best not to compare yourself to what you're seeing for a well choreographed moment on Instagram stories.
Right. Um, so another thing that, I want to talk about is how you can potentially automate it. So setting a budget, but then also trying to find ways where you've almost prepaid, therefore you don't have to think about it. And you mentioned the cruise. That reminds me of going down to Mexico, for instance, and there's the all inclusive. Do you feel like those types of deals are a good way to travel?
If you like to eat and drink there, I think they're a great way to spend your downtime. I'll speak for myself. I always make my money back at the all you can eat buffets. I've I've always come out ahead there. Maybe less so at the bars. You talk about automating the savings. I think people don't realize how quickly a little bit of savings can add up, right? You throw $50 a week into a certificate. After 12 months, you're talking $2,600 in your fund. And if you put it in a certificate, and especially a high earning money market account, you can earn upwards of, I think the Navy federal certificates are just over 3.5% right now with a 12-month term. That's something, if you know you're planning a vacation more than 12 months out and you have the choice of putting it in something high risk or putting it in something that's going to earn a fraction of a percent, but you know it can sit there for 12 months, put it in there. That's just a couple extra bucks. That might be dinner one night on your vacation, but free food is free food. So there's some great opportunities where you can just ideally set it to come out of your paycheck, have it hit a particular account, and next time you go back and check, you're going to be surprised at how much money is sitting in there.
Yeah, and even if you don't have a vacation in mind, eventually you're going to want to travel or go somewhere. For example, my little brother's getting married this fall, so I'm going to be traveling over to the West Coast for that, and I'm treating it like it's a vacation, right? Because it's an expense. But it kind of had me thinking about a rainy day fund. When we talk about saving for those unexpected things, I was almost thinking about like, oh, okay, well, this is almost like for my rainy day fund. Um, so when you're budgeting for a trip, do you think that people should be setting aside money or like having some sort of buffer within your budget for like that rainy day fund, like say you can switch a flight or you have to stay one more day if that hotel expense?
Being able to save for a vacation nowadays can often feel like a luxury in and of itself, right? We talk to so many people that are just trying to get out of debt or trying to build up an emergency fund. And if you've made that a habit already, where you're avoiding debt and you're living below your means, a vacation can be a great way to treat yourself. And it really is something that you should explore making a habit. It really is money in your pocket and a reward for making good financial decisions. Again, not at the expense of running up tens of thousands of dollars of credit card debt to compete with the Joneses. But yeah, it's a great habit to have. It's a great opportunity to hopefully teach your kids. Be able to reward yourself for a job well done, saving and think of all the things that you went without.
Yeah, and we can put money into a CD or we can save, but credit cards also are a really great way to pay for vacations or to pay for upgrades.
I think credit card reward points are one of the best ways, if used responsibly, to tack money into your account. I think you have a lot more expertise on what some of the rewards can actually look like. But if you are going to spend money every month on eating out, on grocery shopping, whatever the case may be, whatever dollar amount you're going to spend, you might as well earn some points back towards it. And there are some great products out there. I know Navy Federal has just launched their updated cash rewards cards, but there is a market for absolutely everyone for maximizing whatever benefit it is that you're into. If it's cash back, if it's travel, mileage, hotels, there's something for everyone out there. And I encourage you to look at your budget, look at what you're going to spend, and I'll defer to you, Emily. I'd love to hear some of your thoughts on this. Honestly, on what you think are some of the best things out there.
Yeah. Oh, I can talk about credit cards all day. So you mentioned cash rewards. Yes, we just launched Cash Plus, which is an addition to the Cash Rewards family. It's a very popular card here. The big thing is that we went from 1.5% cash back to now 2% cash back, and there's no annual fee. And I mean, that's a really great card. Like I have a lot of credit cards and I try to get them from different places. I want to experience them, but I'm also trying to play the points game. And the 2% cash back with no annual fee, you really can't get better than that, especially if you're not the person who wants to think about which credit card to use every time you're buying something. That can get exhausting. Also, points are great, and using them for travel is great. I tend to find it difficult to figure out how I can use them or what I can use them for. And then I get kind of lost in the details and in the terms and conditions with some other cards that are at other financial institutions. So I really do think the cash back is kind of the best way to go, unless you are a seasoned traveler and you know exactly what you want to do and exactly what you're going to use those points for. But besides cash rewards, we also have a Navy Federal American Express More Rewards card. And that one's also really popular. That is points based. It's not like 2% cash back, but that is another card where you don't have to think about where you're spending. You get points back on, all the top categories, and it's just cut and dry. So to me, as a credit card person, that's what I like to do. And I try to stay away from the ones with annual fees, even though you can, spend a certain amount or take advantage of certain perks. But then I feel like I'm almost just doing that just to get that money back and justify the fact that I'm paying an annual fee, to be completely honest.
Sure.
So I will always gravitate towards no annual fee because I don't want to have to think about that when I'm thinking about my budget and being realistic. And what do I actually want to do on vacation? What is fun to me? Maybe it's not, getting a notification every time I walk by a restaurant and it's 5% off. I don't want to be thinking that way. I want to do what I want to do and not base it off of what is my credit card telling me I should do. So I know I kind of got into the weeds there, but
No, no, but that's a great point, Emily. I mean, there's so much competition in the space, and it's so easy to get caught up in analysis paralysis and saying, what is going to be the best use? What am I maximizing for this transaction, for that transaction? And you don't want to open your wallet and sit here and scroll through and say, I want to use this card for this. If you're up in the air on, you're a normal family that says, we're going to take a couple of small vacations or one big vacation, but it's not the hub of my year, then the cash rewards is a great option. You know what you're going to get. It's consistent. It's easy. You reach for it, and then you use the rewards for what you want to use the rewards for.
right. And it's like no matter what you do, no matter what you spend on, you are getting value. There's never going to be a one for one. There's always value. So to me, it's just like a no-brainer. I've been working in credit cards for almost 6 years, and I have been shopping my entire life. And I'm just really proud of the way that we have come up with these products that are really member focused. We are really thinking like, okay, if we were to improve the suite of credit card products that we have, what would we do? And I just think we've really accomplished that with Flagship, with Cash Plus recently. I mean, I think we've just like really hit the mark. And another thing that I would say is if you are planning a vacation or you're going to spend money on travel, like me going to my brother's wedding, if you're in the market for a new credit card, look and see what promotions are out there. I don't think you should get a new credit card and start spending just to get the points. I think that you definitely need to think about, is this the right time for me? Do I have an expense that I know I'm going to be needing this, and think of it that way. And also there's a range of promotions out there for credit cards. Spend this amount, get $100, $200, $300. You don't always need to go for the 100,000 point bonus because
Right.
then you're having to spend so much more money to get that back. And we all know that a lot of credit card points just kind of sit out there in the ether. So really, like you said, sit down, pen to paper. What do you want to do? What do you want to spend your money on? And then think about it that way and be a little bit more strategic because then your money will go a lot further.
Yeah, there's something to be said for what is your time worth, right? You want to be able to maximize, but maximize needs to be done not at the expense of spending hours trying to select the right card for the right transaction at the right place. At some point, you have to be able to simplify it down. Where are you spending the money? Where do you want the returns? And make your decisions accordingly. And I think there's a lot of families out there that would love to have this problem. The way I kicked off, just telling a quick story about going to see a buddy of mine. Like I would have loved to have been able to have a discussion about which of these five rewards credit cards is going to net me the biggest bang for my buck. But A lot of times nowadays, families are struggling just to find that one-off vacation, and I think it's a great opportunity to talk to them as well. I'm curious your take here, Emily. What are some of your favorite budget or no-cost things to do on a vacation?
What I find to be fascinating is that here in DC, where I live, the zoo is free. So
Yep.
I always, whenever I go anywhere, I always look up. I've a daughter, a toddler, so I'll say free entertainment for kids because the last thing you want to do is go to a zoo that costs $50 and the kid is a tantrum and you have to leave, or that you know what I mean. It's like if you can make the admission free, that is a good way to be spending time personally. So I like to do some Google searches. Museums is another one that I love to go to. Here in DC, we have the Smithsonian's, but I'm sure no matter where you are. Also, the destination is really important. For example, I love the beach. So technically, the beach is free, right? Most places. So if you plan a trip near a beach, you can spend a lot of time there, packed lunches, snacks, all that sort of stuff. So I think also, you have to see what places are making different offers. If there's like a military or active duty, we were able to get military discount because of my dad, so that was great. But even if they're not free, it can be really exciting. Like if you have little kids, it can be really exciting to go on a ferry ride. If there's like a $2 ferry ride somewhere, like that's really fun. And it doesn't have to be expensive to be memorable. And it's almost better if it's not expensive. Like that's kind of how I feel.
Something you said that I really love about being here in DC, and it's the concept of being a tourist in your own town, right? We all know the story of the people who live in New York who've never been to see the Statue of Liberty, right? It's kind of an old anecdote. How many things around us, how many food markets, museums, festivals, hikes, zoos, whatever the case may be, how many of these things are out there that we don't take advantage of? And then for those things, even when we do go on vacation and things cost a couple of bucks, little things like packing your snacks, bringing your water bottle with you. I don't know what a bottle of water costs when you go to an amusement park, but I'm guessing it's more expensive than when you pick it up at the grocery store. So there's some great opportunities just in your daily habits. They go back to how we opened this whole conversation. What are some opportunities to save a few dollars, and where do you want to put those savings towards? When my wife goes traveling, we do a road trip. Is a great example. We're driving up to see family in Massachusetts. She will pack snacks and sandwiches and sodas and waters. Like we'll have two coolers going in the back seat. And if I'm left in charge of it, we're stopping at Dunkin' every 2 hours for reloading coffee and sandwiches and donuts. It's two different mentalities. We were raised different ways. We spend money in different places. But look, there's some other ideas out there that you triggered in me. Something that I like to encourage people to do, look at national parks. You talked about some monuments, you talked about some museums. I talked about the Grand Canyon out in Arizona. There are so many of these things across the country. The US has some of the most national parks, I think, in the world. I'd have to double check my numbers on that, but there are a ton of monuments and things you can see just traveling domestically. And it could be educational. You talked about the military discounts, first responder discounts, student discounts. You take all of those things as part of your strategy and you look towards scheduling it during shoulder season. So outside of peak times, it's a great opportunity to really save some money. A great example, when I lived in Florida, going to the beach in the summer for me was terrible because it was 115 degrees. It was crowded. There was traffic. I would much rather go on Tuesday when the kids are back in school and I have half the beach to myself. That was a much more pleasant experience. And you could do that with cruises. You can do that with traveling. Like, look at what fits what you're looking for and plan everything around that.
That was also something I was going to bring up was, you don't need to travel during high season just because it's like, oh, what am I doing for Memorial Day weekend? It's like, well, I don't know. It doesn't matter if you go Memorial Day weekend when prices are higher or 2 weekends later or before. Another thing that I think the pandemic really spurred in me at least was whenever I would travel home to San Diego. My parents lived near the beach. That to me felt like a vacation. It didn't always feel like a vacation, but now when I'm there, I pretend like I didn't grow up there and I do all the touristy things. and I love it, and the busier it gets, the more tourists, of course, people that live there are like, oh my goodness. And I'm like, I love it. I love that there's so much going on. So anyway, the point is, you don't have to think of a vacation as going somewhere exotic or meeting people somewhere. You can visit family, you can visit friends, you can potentially stay with them, or not every kid needs their own room or hotel room. I just think that there's a lot of ways that you can consolidate and save money. Another thing that I've realized is like supply and demand is a big thing, right? So prices are going to go up, prices are going to go down. It doesn't really matter if you think it's the best thing or the worst thing, it's supply and demand. So set travel alerts. If you have your bucket list of places you want to go, set travel alerts, see when the flights are maybe a little bit cheaper. There's definitely a way to do it. It might not be in the time that you want to go, right? And you might not be able to be like impulsive and spur of the moment, but you can probably get to where you want to go if you are patient, you're setting the travel alerts, you're using credit cards smartly, saving up those points. Another thing that I do, back to the credit card tips, it's always good to bring a backup credit card because you never know what's going to happen. But at the same time, a lot of credit cards, the mobile apps have features where you can lock or freeze the card. That is a great way to travel and just live your life in general. But if you don't need it, lock it. That way, if you might be spending on something, it tells you, well, sorry, the card is locked. You can think twice about it. That's another, in my mind, that's another way to like set it and forget it and budget, but then also have enough credit cards that just in case you do need one, you can go on your app and unlock it and it's very easy. Or if you have kids, give them one of the cards and lock it. That to me is another really great way to make sure that you're not overspending or spending on things that aren't necessary on vacation.
Yeah, Emily, one of the things that we touched on is when you're making your budget, one of the best strategies that you can do is throw the number out and try and reverse engineer it, right? So if you say my travel budget is going to be X number of dollars, doesn't matter where you're traveling, and you build it out, you try and look for what is the most important thing. Where are you going to try and stretch your dollar? Where are you going to splurge? And I'll tell you something that's a great feature nowadays. And I was over the moon when I found out about this feature because AI has come so far. I'll tell a quick story. AI can now act as a travel agent for you. And I've heard stories of this on other podcasts through the years, but I didn't realize exactly how good it had gotten. And just out of curiosity, I threw some ideas into an engine and said, hey, kick me out a trip to Iceland at this price point for this many people. I'm open to when we go. Hit me. And it sent back, I was expecting like, oh, you could travel during this time frame and save some money here. When I tell you it kicked back an itinerary day by day, you are going to drive the loop. You are going to stay in this city. This is an estimated cost. This is the time of year off peak to go. And you can drill it down or have it go up to a 50,000 foot view as much as you want. And you can tinker, you can move that needle. And when you're looking at it and you say, oh, well, I don't really want to stay in a city. It's important to me to go do this. Great. Then you can pull it away from someplace else. You can say, I want to spend such and such on food. I want to eat authentic food, or hey, what I really want is American style fast food while I'm there. I don't want to be an adventurous eater. Whatever it is that tickles your fancy is going to be a wonderful opportunity for you to plan your own things, save some money on a travel agent, and I can almost guarantee it's going to give you ideas for your travel budget that you would not have thought of on your own. It is a great step, it's a great tool, and it's really something that we should be learning to leverage
I,
in
I,
our
de-
day to day.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think it's fantastic. And when you were saying you can move the needle, you really can. You can just tweak one thing. Or you can say, well, my budget, it's no longer 3,000, it's 2,000, and it'll kind of like redo it for you or give you ways to like cut. Even when you're on the trip, it will help you immensely to
Yeah.
save time, save money, get your mind right. It'll do all kinds of things. Um, so that is also a great tip to use AI and save some time, some money. And I think that that is probably a good place to wrap this up. Thomas, is there anything else that you want to talk about as far as, any vacation budgeting tips, realistic planning?
Realistic planning. You need to be mindful of everything that you are eligible for. You talked about the military discount from your father. Being a Navy Federal member, you can qualify, I think, for up to 20% off with like Hertz rental cars, right? Not a lever we pull very often if we don't rent vehicles very often, but great opportunity. If you're traveling out of state, out of country, something you definitely want to be mindful of is letting Navy Federal or whoever your financial institution may be, letting them know that you're traveling. Again, it's really important that if you lose your card while you're on travel, or if you are going to be traveling, give your financial institution a heads up just to lower your liability for anything that may happen, especially when you're traveling overseas. It can be stressful enough trying to hop flights, rent vehicles, drive on the wrong side of the road, whatever the case may be. There's a lot to digest. So anything that you can plan beforehand, call Navy Fed, let us know, find out what perks you may be available for. And when you go out there, have a good time, make some memories. You don't want to come back and be saddled with debt and worried about what you may or may not incur. You want to go out, you want to have fun, but you don't want to be stuck with a tab for 12 or 18 months after the fact. An ounce of prevention, pound of care. Go out, have fun, and just do it intelligently.
Yes, and that's all very good advice. And lastly, for those who maybe aren't ready to take a vacation right now, maybe you are still saving, don't underestimate the staycation.
I think it beats my planned trips overseas.
Yeah, well, you don't have to take out the travel time, that's for sure. And the time change.
Yep. No jet lag, and you get your own bed. You might have just convinced me to cancel my next trip.
I know, and put the money towards, I don't know, whatever you want. But
yeah.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Thomas, for coming on. I think this was a really good conversation. I want to go use AI to plan my next trip. And thank you again for coming on. Have a good day.
Awesome. Thanks, Emily. Have a great day.
Navy Federal Credit Union is federally insured by the National Credit Union Administration. This podcast is intended to provide general information and shouldn't be considered legal, tax, or financial advice. It's always a good idea to consult a tax or financial professional for specific information on how certain laws may apply to your individual financial situation. References to and participation with the military community does not constitute organizational endorsement. Navy Federal is an equal housing lender. Navy Federal Credit Union are members of the mission.